Earth Day rallies for science, or is it the religion of science? How many people can actually change a light bulb? Not how many does it take, how many can do it? Free speech is on the chopping block, but Ann Coulter gets an unlikely advocate. But next, violence in the air and in the classroom. What's your place on an airplane? Are we citizens? Or is it just a training ground for tyranny? That's kind of what it seems like to me. American Airlines flight attendant whacks a mother in the head. Now, if that were, just on their, shall we say, promotional materials, I would be all about it. That would be fine with me. But no, there was something a bit more nefarious going on. An American Airlines staff member was seen challenging a passenger to a fight. Yes, it happened on a flight. The argument was precipitated by an alleged assault of a woman by the American Airlines employee. The employee hit the woman with a metal stroller as he dragged it off of her. Now, it wasn't an accident. Was he just in a bad mood and didn't care? We don't know at this point in time, but he hit the woman with the stroller. He also struck a baby with the stroller. Oh, he's hit the baby. And that's what witnesses said. Now, American Airlines released a statement saying that the incident does not reflect our values. Why not? Come on. No one likes little kids on a plane. And if you've got flight attendants that will fight back about, against these little urchins, well, that would be a good thing, wouldn't it? Yeah, maybe we wouldn't need our support pigs. The flight attendant has been suspended by the airline pending an investigation. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it was a pretty crazy incident that happened in the not-so-friendly skies. So we've got some video of that. We'll play it. It's kind of difficult to understand. I put some captions on there. But it seems like there was a lot of broing out here. Like, hey, bro, I'll put it in your face, bro. Come on, give it to me, bro. That's kind of what was going on. Here's a video.
What's the guy's name that did that with the stroller? I want to know the guy's name that did that with the stroller. Hey, bud, you do that to me and I'll knock you flat. You stay out of this. Come on, Tony. You get the hell up. Get the hell up. Come on. You try that with a man, I'll knock you out. Well, I'm not going to be silly.
Tony.
Yeah. Go with us where we're going.
Come on.
You don't know what the story is.
I
don't care what the story is. No one's heard of baby. It was not an accident. You keep looking at me and showing me what you did to that lady. Keep it quiet. Yeah, I can see exactly what you did.
Yeah, there was a lot of broing out there. Hey, bro, what are you doing, bro? That's not right, bro. I can't believe you treated a baby like that, bro. What's happening, bro? You better not do that to me, bro. Come on, bro. Granted, both of the people involved were in the wrong here, but, I can understand it from a passenger's point of view. Who else is going to stand up for these people? You've got a woman that is crying incessantly. She's beside herself. It doesn't seem like a whole lot is being done. Frankly, the airline doesn't want to do anything. They don't want to draw any attention to what's going on. They certainly don't want her going out and talking to people about it. So it was a bad situation all around, and I think more of this is going to happen. That's the point. It is such a tyrannical thing to be on a plane these days. You don't have the right to your own body. You don't have the right to your own stuff. You're completely at their mercy. If you complain, you go to jail. So why wouldn't airlines take advantage of that? Especially when it's not like everybody can start an airline. And there's not that many of them out there. So they have a virtual monopoly and a government gun behind them that says they can do whatever they want. That's kind of a scary situation. And other violence. Teacher attacks a 7-year-old special needs boy. But what happens next is even more outrageous. It is very, very crazy, although it makes 100% sense in our society. In December of 2015, a public school teacher in Harlem, New York, shoved a 7-year-old special needs child after the boy tried to re-enter the classroom. The guy was convicted by a Manhattan criminal court, sentenced to 30 days in jail. The teacher had had numerous complaints filed against him in the past, including some in 2013, alleging that he threw a student down a flight of stairs at the school. Despite these numerous incidents and the 30-day jail sentence, he is reportedly still receiving a salary of $105,000 and $105,142. Got to get that 142 in there. Even worse, he has not been fired from his position. Parents are trying to get the person fired, but it's virtually impossible with rules and regulations put in place by New York and the teachers' unions. That's the thing that gets me here. You've got a sociopath, right? Or at least somebody that has anger issues or emotional control issues. Certainly, someone with emotional control issues shouldn't be teaching people, especially young people, because young people tend to do what they're exposed to. If they're around the person that has emotional control issues, they may or probably will develop those things in the future. So it's not a great idea to have that person around young people anyway. But when the case is so bad that he's throwing kids downstairs, which I'm not totally against, by the way, I got to hear that story. Probably deserved it. I don't like kids. But that's why I'm not a teacher. You see, I'm not in a school because I wouldn't need a reason. I would kick them down the stairs for fun. I'm not going to lie to you about it. But the question here is teachers' unions, there's marches, there's stand up for the teachers, and there's picketing. Teachers' unions always march out children, always march out the students, the kids, in support of things like increasing funding. They say they're fighting for the kids. Well, and in this employment scenario, in which a teacher cannot be dismissed no matter how bad or even dangerous that person is that in the best interest of the children? Is it? How is it that having this person at a school around young people is good for them? And how exactly does it enhance the educational environment to have a teacher that is this out of control? You know, they use that excuse a lot, the educational environment. That's why you can't have an American flag on your car or wear a specific type of T-shirt. It damages the educational environment. So they march that little phraseology out whenever it serves their purposes. But in the case of an actual educational environment being damaged by someone who is violent and dangerous, they don't seem to care. Teachers' unions do not represent the students. They represent the teachers. This is the mother of the child.
You see on video that he grabbed Kavion by both arms and threw him across the hallway and slammed the door. I don't trust the school. Y'all waited a month to tell me. Y'all didn't care about what was going on with my son. Y'all kept it from me, so I don't trust them no more than I did before.
Well, you don't trust the school. I wouldn't trust the school either, frankly. The problem, though, is you still have to pay the school. You still have to pay this teacher. This teacher that threw your kid, out of a classroom or manhandled your kid, or in the instance of the child that was thrown down the flight of stairs, you as the parent still have to pay the salary of that person. And there's nothing you can personally do about it because this is a government school with government force. They are going to take your tax money. They're going to do with it whatever they choose to do, and you have absolutely no say. Well, it was a big weekend for science. Yes, science all over the place. We're dripping with science. Advocates fan out all over the globe to show support for science because I didn't know that science was so much of a political thing that it needed support. I didn't know that it was so much of a religious thing that it needed support, that it needed advocacy. I just thought science was the study of things. Right? You ask questions, you study, you try to glean some information. Along the way, people are going to disagree with you as they do in every other part of your life. Right? But apparently now science is something to be advocated for, and there is only one way of looking at science, so says the global warming people. Isn't that nice? But while we're talking about this, I want you to keep in mind the word revival. Keep in mind the word revival, like one of those old tent revivals, because that's going to be key here. There were rallies in more than 600 cities across the country. Scientists said that they were anxious about political and public rejection of established science such as climate change and the safety of vaccine immunizations. I love how they put those two things together, because there are two things that couldn't be more scientifically diverse. Number one, climate change. There is not, well, consensus, certainly, but there is not a factual basis for that consensus. It's an advocacy consensus, right? People that are in the business of climate science, or people that are in any sort of scientific business, want to say or have to say that they agree with climate science, or else they're out. It is in their own personal interest to advocate for climate science or for global warming, basically. If they advocate against it, then you get these rallies like we're going to discuss here. The leaders that put this thing together, despite saying that it was nonpartisan, recognized that they didn't actually come up with the deal until the Women's March happened. Okay, oh, look at the Women's March. Maybe we can get some money out of this deal. That's how it works. I cut down a video from this climate summit of craziness, and let's just go through it. We'll start and stop it here.
Climate change is my biggest concern. We can't stall our progress anymore in this area.
I'm here today because I'm so upset about all that science seems under attack. Now, facts seem under attack.
Some people are going to say we're politicizing science, but we're not. We're defending it.
Born in the 50s. We grew up in the 70s. We watched progress. We were protesting back then, and we're too old for this, okay? We should not be out here protesting about things that we won in the 70s and the 80s.
Now, that's very interesting. Things that we won in the 70s and the 80s. Well, wait a second. Were you right in the 70s and 80s?
Let me hear it. Happy Earth Day!
Now, this is what's important to me. This is what's important to me, is the fact that the rhetoric surrounding all of this, the type of things that they're saying and the way that they're saying it, feels very much like a religious event and much less of a scientific event. You've got a lot of people coming out making statements about, reading bullet points that are supposed science, but they're not going through the data. That's one thing that never actually happens, is going through the data. Why? Because that's not sexy. That's very difficult. It's hard to understand. And we made the proclamation a long time ago, but that the reason why people don't agree with the climate sciences, they're just not smart enough to figure it out. They don't understand. If they don't understand, then they can't, possibly be left in their own devices to make up their decisions, right? We couldn't do that. So we're just going to make the decisions for you. Let's continue.
Today, in fact, marks the 47th anniversary of Earth Day.
Science is under attack.
Wow, do I hate her already.
The very idea of evidence and logic and reason is being threatened by individuals and interests with the power to do real harm.
Okay, logic is being threatened. Everything is being threatened because none of what you think, if you're not on their side, none of what you think has any validity whatsoever. You're not using logic. You're not using evidence. All you're using is evil. See, we've got it right. We've got it right. We know. We have faith. We know. See, these people, they went to college and they have white coats. We have to have faith in them. That's the point that they're trying to push.
We are gathered here today to fight for science.
Yay!
We are gathered to fight for education.
Woo!
To fight for knowledge.
Yeah!
And to fight for planet Earth.
Apparently not for split ends, though, because you've got a problem with that.
Today at March for Science Earth Day 2017, we, each and every one of us,
all of us,
are making a difference.
Yay!
Publicly funded, independent, and peer-reviewed research is more important now than ever before.
Publicly funded? That's what's important here? Government money. Government money. You see, the government gets to use the power of a gun. They get to pull out this thing called a gun and put it to your head and take your money away via taxation. If you don't give your money to the government, then they throw you in jail, or they'll probably just kill you. That's the way that works. Governments will take your money. Now, you've got an advocacy group using a religion, okay, this global warming religion, with scientists, quote unquote, as their priests who are preaching the doctrine. So we've got this religion now that has the moral authority to go to the government and request money, ergo taking it away from you by force. You see, that's the thing about climate science, is it can't work in the free market. It doesn't work on its own. None of the climate technologies have been able to survive on their own. None of the climate economies have been able to survive on their own. They require government coercion. They require government force against the people, against their will.
Science should need no defense, but it's great to see
Well, I'm glad a Doobie Brother showed up.
so many science defenders willing to stand up, speak out, and march for science.
It's a question to all of us.
Now, this is the scary part here. This is the scary part. I said that this is a religion. I said that this is a moral authority, and she goes on to explain it.
All of us alive today. What did you do?
What did you do personally? What are you guilty of? Or what are you not doing good enough to serve their religion?
And the answer, my friends, must be that we work together to answer that question in just one way. Not that we did everything that we thought was possible, but that we did everything that we knew was necessary. Because in that difference lies the future of mankind.
So, it's not about what we thought we could do. It's that we did everything necessary. We did everything necessary. That's kind of scary. What is necessary? What are you talking about? How far would you go to reach your goals? Because it's necessary. Hey, we're trying to save the entire planet. We're trying to save the entire race. So, what's a couple of scalps here and there? And now the GOP is part of it. In February, a group of high-profile Republicans announced their support for a plan that would tax carbon dioxide emissions in order to slow global warming. The plan would tax fossil fuel companies and redistribute the funds back to the American public equally in equal proportions, thereby artificially raising the price of fossil fuels and making renewable energy sources more competitive. See, you need government coercion to make these renewable energy sources work. They don't work. If they were so great, if they were so numerous and wonderful, and they solved the problem so well that it wouldn't require government coercion to make them function. But it does. Left-wing climate alarmists are seizing on the idea, with some saying it's the only policy idea that the American people and Trump administration get on board with. Well, I'm part of the American people, and I don't buy into it at all. Because it's going to cost me more money. It's going to be more difficult for me to live, and it's based on a premise that I disagree with. It's based on a religion that I disagree with. This should be summarily rejected as a forced tithe on the American people. By the way, if you think you're actually going to get any of this carbon tax revenue, you are a fool. You're just a moron, because it ain't going to happen. And by the way, now, there isn't any correlative evidence here. It's just me thinking, and sometimes I like to do that. But my thought is this: I don't know that the groups of people that believe in global warming and the groups of people that can't change a light bulb are mutually exclusive. Here we go. This is out of the UK, my friends. 1 in 5 adults in the UK can't change a light bulb or boil an egg. Oh, great. And these are the people that are advocating for God knows what. Let's go through some of the numbers here because they're kind of funny. 81% say that they could boil an egg. They were asked in the survey of what sort of task, given a list of tasks, and to what degree of certainty do you think you could accomplish this task? 81% of people said that they could boil an egg. which frankly surprises me because that's one of those things where how long do you boil it? What do you do? Does it have to float? What's going on? So I actually know some people that would have some questions about boiling an egg, although Google seems to fix it pretty well. Here's another one. 79% of people feel confident that they could change a light bulb. Now, this is a bigger one. This is a bit bigger because light bulbs do on occasion need to be changed. They always have throughout the history of light. And if you don't think you could figure it out, if only 79%, if only 79% of the people think that they could manage changing a light bulb, what does that say about your country, UK? Yeah. All right, here's another one. It gets a bit more realistic. 66% feel confident that they could read a map. And with all the GPS and technology that we have today, I can understand why people wouldn't feel confident in that. 57% say they feel confident they could wire a plug. Well, that's good. I'm glad you feel confident. And then I'll just speak to your mortician. 47% of people said they feel confident that they could put up a shelf. So more people feel confident that they could put in an electrical outlet than put up a shelf. That also shows how stupid they are because only one of those things can kill you. We'll move on. There's been a big dust-up on the campus of Berkeley. They've been in the news quite a lot, frankly. And now being defended, their actions are being defended by Howard Dean. Of course, they decided that Ann Coulter wasn't going to be able to come to the campus, and things have kind of changed a little bit. It's sort of up in the air. We'll see what happens on the 27th. That's when she's appeared to be there. Now, former DNC head Howard Dean says, and he doubles down on this, that Coulter is not protected by the First Amendment. He's not protected by the First Amendment, no, because it's hate speech. This is what he said.
That's actually true, but it's first of all, okay, so several things to think about. One, the United States has the most far-reaching protections on speech of any country in the world. Mm-hmm. Two, it's not absolute. Three, there are three Supreme Court cases that you need to know about. One, the most recent, is a John Roberts opinion that said the Phelps people, that church out in Kansas, had the right to picket horrible, offensive, with signs, military funerals. Two, in 2002, there was a Supreme Court said that cross-boarding was illegal because it could incite violence. And three, the Chaplinsky case in 1942 said that speech was not permitted if it included fighting words that were likely to incite violence. So this is not a clear-cut carrying on the way the right does. The right loves to be able to say anything they like, no matter how offensive it is. Well, Ann Coulter has used words that you cannot use on television to describe Jews, blacks, gays, Muslims, immigrants, and Hispanics. I think there's a case to be made that invokes the Chaplinsky decision, which is fighting words likely to incite violence. And I think Berkeley is within its rights to make the decision that it puts their campus in danger if they have her there.
Well, no. If the Phelps' speech is protected, then Ann Coulter's speech is certainly protected. The Phelps' go out specifically to cause an emotional reaction. Ann Coulter goes out to make a political point, which is what free speech was designed for in the first place. The person who defines hate speech, if we were to accept your premise that hate speech is a real thing, that it exists and should be enforced through the power of law, the person then who defines hate speech is the one and only person that controls all speech in the country. Hate needs a definition that we can all agree with. And if we can't make that definition, we cannot ascertain whether or not something is hate speech or not. Now, fighting words, those aren't real. Words that by their simple utterance drive people to act violently. That's what we're talking about with fighting words. Well, fighting words then cannot be universally defined. That's the problem. What will incite me to violence? What will drive me into an emotional rage, the words that will drive me into an emotional rage are going to be wholly and solely different than the words that do the same for another person. Thereby, we can't write it down in a law. And if it's that arbitrary, based on my own personal opinion, then all violence then becomes justifiable. It also removes from the individual the personal responsibility of conduct in society. Simply because you can say, well, it was hate speech. Yeah, it really made me mad. So I punched him in the face, and I'm not responsible for that because of what they said. And how far could it go? Oxford University students were told that avoiding making eye contact with somebody is racist. Perhaps the most prestigious academic institution in the world, Oxford University, the university's Equity and Diversity Council, had advised students not to speak directly to people could be deemed as a racial microaggression. So if you don't address people or if you don't look at people in the right way, well, then that could be they're offended by that. They're excluded from society. And if you exclude people from society in that way, then you are a bad person and thereby evil. If hate speech were a thing, how long would it be before a simple action like looking at somebody the wrong way would be considered unconstitutional because it caused great offense? Bernie Sanders, in fact, is coming out defending Ann Coulter. Isn't that amazing? Bernie Sanders has come out in defense of Ann Coulter, denouncing threats that forced the University of California, Berkeley to try to postpone her appearance at the college. He said, "I don't care. I don't like this." Well, that's what he said. It's a quote. Come on now. Obviously, Ann Coulter's outrageous, to my mind, off the wall, but people have the right to give their 2 cents worth, give a speech without fear of violence and intimidation. It's a fairly simple concept, my friends. Your ability to go out and speak, especially in a public venue, was what the First Amendment was there for in the first place. That's why they decided it. That's why they put it in the Constitution. The ability to speak your mind is of tantamount importance in a democracy. Ann Coulter goes on to defend herself.
You cannot impose arbitrary and harassing restrictions on the exercise of a constitutional right. I suggested 2 measures that actually would allow free speech to exist on Berkeley if they wanted it to. And that was one thing, to announce that any students caught engaging in violence, mayhem, or disrupting an invited speaker's speech would be expelled, and number 2, to have a little talk with the Berkeley chief of police, who was allowing these Rodney King riots to go on whenever a conservative speaker speaks.
And that is a really important thing to talk about here. How do you stop this stuff? How do you stop the riots? Because we have, as a society, we have a right to make sure our cities are safe, and certainly we have a right to defend the ability for speakers to speak. And you've got groups of people, the Antifa people, and they look like terrorists out there that are starting riots whenever somebody comes into a college campus and tries to speak. Well, we have a right to put that down. And if we decide not to put that down, then we're essentially giving our seal of approval for that activity. Once again, thank you, everybody, for joining the show. The links to all the stories will be in the description box below, and there's a lot of new stuff coming on the Michael Newman Show. I've got a website that I'm putting together, and we're just some really good stuff. It's going to be so much fun. Tell your friends about the show, and please, please, please subscribe. That helps me out a whole lot. Have a great day.